How's it going, guys? And welcome back to the Beyond the Act podcast. Sully's back. We're both here finally together. No more awkward solo videos from myself. Sully, how we doing, man? How do you enjoy your trip?
I enjoyed it, man. But I had a bit of FOMO not being on the podcast that week. I was like watching the video, like, damn, man, I'm not there, but we're back now.
Yeah. Well, we've got a lot of stuff to talk about. We've got a lot of things in the bank. We were potentially going to be doing the grading each team's season like we did last year, but last night was the first day of free agency. The first day where everybody who is out of contract can just decide to sign wherever they want, and it's all crazy. Loads of stuff went down, so we are going to be postponing that grading video, hopefully for next week, and we are going to be doing the just a bit of a review of pretty much what went down last night and within the last week since I recorded that last video. This is all mainly because I'm knackered as well because I've just come back off a trip too. So we're both a little bit tired. You know, we've had a long a long summer so far, but next week will be a bit more refreshed, a bit more prepared, and we will hit you with that grading video. But I think today we are just going to be talking a little bit about all of the free agency signings, a few trades that have happened in the last week, and pretty much just giving our opinions on them. So if you guys like it, make sure you're liking and subscribing to the YouTube channel. Make sure you're sharing it out, no matter what you're listening on any podcast platform. Make sure you're commenting down below what you want to see from us during the off season. Obviously, like I said, we got a few videos in the bank, but we want to hear some suggestions from you guys. So make sure that you're commenting down below any suggestions for any videos that we should do in the future. But yeah, I think we should just get straight to it. I feel like before we talk about what happened last night in terms of free agents, we should probably talk about a few key trades that happened since the last video. And the first one that I want to talk about is DeJounte Murray leaving the San Antonio Spurs to join the Atlanta Hawks and creating arguably one of, if not the best backcourt in the East, potentially the NBA. I mean, I've just said that off my own head. I can't really think
Mm.
of anything else that could beat it. But look, I mean, Trae Young, we saw last year, led the league in total points, led the league in total assists. DeJounte Murray, like a young Russell Westbrook with all of his triple doubles that he's managed to average so far, he was carrying the Spurs last year. The Spurs have now gone into a full rebuild mode and just sent um, their star player to Atlanta, and Atlanta are dangerous again now.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, Atlanta with just Trae Young were like dangerous as it was. Like, obviously, we saw them go out in the first round of the playoffs, but now you're looking at definite top eight contention and maybe a really good player front. I'm seeing like, but I wonder how like Trey's gonna, because obviously he was the star man, the spotlight guy of Atlanta, and now he's gonna have to share some of that, like, because now they've got two big stars. Like, it's not just the Trey Young show anymore,
That's true.
and I don't think he will like be, like find that difficult because obviously, if anything, if you might not want to take all of it on at once, but it looks like he dealt with that fine. So maybe like on paper, it looks like it's going to be really well. But I'm just excited to see how, like their chemistry and how they're going to work well together. But it looks nice for Atlanta. It looks really nice. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, true. Well, I mean, they've managed to get this done while still keeping the likes of Clint Capella and John Collins, although John Collins has been trade rumoured throughout the whole of the last few weeks. So I don't know if John Collins is still going to be at Atlanta when the season starts. At the moment, he is. So we got a nice little young big three there. Clint Capella's not exactly old. You know, he's one of the best traditional centers in the game. So I feel like Atlanta, Atlanta's a weird one because obviously they got to the Eastern Conference Finals 2 years ago. Last
Yeah.
year they had a bit of an underwhelming season.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, you're kind of a hot or cold. They blow hot or cold. So I mean, DeJounte Murray's gonna obviously make that better, and especially given that they didn't really have to give up too much for him. Obviously, Danilo Gallinari was the only player that ended up being traded to San Antonio. He's gonna
Mm.
end up getting waived by the Spurs, so they're gonna buy out his contract. the Spurs just end up getting a lot of first round picks. They're looking towards next year's draft, which allegedly is unbelievably stacked. I mean, I don't know much about this year's draft, if I'm honest with you, but let alone next year's. But
Mm.
I've been hearing things that have said the 2022 draft's going to be like next level. So the Spurs obviously have that pull, big big city team, big market. Um, so yeah, I think maybe in the draft they could potentially get someone to center their whole team around, and maybe their rebuild won't be as long and drawn out. I mean, I don't really think they've been through a rebuild before. Like Greg
Not
Popovich,
not to this extent,
yeah,
definitely, because
Greg Popovich has just been that guy
yeah,
that's made the playoffs every single year, but now
hundred
obviously
percent.
his team is now tanking. Is the term that
Am I right
you
in
could say.
saying that next year would be the Bronnies in the draft?
I've no idea if I'm honest with you. What are they saying? Go for LeBron.
I mean, oh, it's the year after,
Ah, right,
so
is it?
2024 draft. Okay, well,
Yeah,
if
think.
they've got like two first round picks, first year it don't matter. Second, in 2 years, we've got LeBron and Bronny at San Antonio. They're
Yeah,
gonna
I
run it back.
mean, it's crazy how these sons of former and current NBA players are headed into the league. Obviously, the Lakers have signed Scottie Pippen's son and Shaquille O'Neal's son to their summer league teams
Yeah,
for this year. So that'd be interesting to see how that goes down. But yeah, I mean, yeah, maybe that could potentially out like LeBron James on the Spurs. I mean, I don't know what LeBron James can give you in another 2 years. I mean, I feel like,
I mean, he's already like at this age. I feel like he'll still be like top level.
all right, fair enough. Well, Atlanta definitely have gotten stronger off of that, but I feel like it's not a bad thing for the Spurs. It's not an awful trade, in my
No,
opinion.
no.
What was a bit of a poor trade for Detroit was sending their, well, probably not star guy now, but for the last few seasons, their star guy Jeremy Grant to Portland for pretty much nothing. A few picks that
Yeah.
aren't projected to be that high. Not many good players back. Yeah, I feel this trade probably isn't as good, but it does make Portland that little bit more dangerous, especially if Dame comes back again next year.
100%. And like from nothing to like Portland 4 years ago, 5 years ago is what I'm sensing. Like I'm talking prime time, Dame time type. Like them pushing for like conference finals and stuff like that. Like I mean, hopefully we can see Dame at his like peak again. I don't want like because obviously the guy has not played in over a year, and I just have like a sense that that might detriment his game. But there's plenty of people around him now. Like it's not
Yeah,
just gonna be Dame coming back to like a broken Portland. Like they'll actually build it back up again.
yeah. That's
And
what I was gonna say. Props to Portland for actually, rewarding Dame for all his loyalty by continuing to just try and build a team around him. I personally feel like this season, I mean, unless something crazy happens and they trade away someone important like Nurkic, this could, in my opinion, perhaps be the most help that Dame has got. Obviously, CJ has been the best player that they've
yeah,
paired alongside Dame, but I feel like they've done a good job in managing to kind of like surround him with good players. They obviously tied Anthony Simons down to a new deal in free agency. They've
yeah,
traded for Grant. They've kept Nurkic. They've signed Gary Payton off the bench. We saw how key he was to the Golden State
mm,
Warriors' recent title run. So yeah, I feel like they're actually starting to surround Dame. And I was saying to you before we started recording, Portland could be back to that dark horse kind of level. They've got the seventh pick. They got the seventh pick in the draft as well. So obviously a decent young pick there to go alongside the likes of Anthony Simons and Jeremy Grant. So yeah, I feel like even if Dame isn't 100% back to regular Dame time, maybe age has kind of
mm,
detrimented him a little bit. I feel like Portland could potentially maybe not make a huge run, but they're not going to be tanking for a lottery pick this season.
yeah.
Definitely.
I don't think so.
Yeah, definitely. Well, one team that you could potentially, we'll move on. One team that you could say is tanking for lottery picks is Houston still. I'm kind of liking Houston. Obviously they drafted Jabari Parker with that
Yeah,
number 3 pick. I'm liking the youth. Kind of makes them a little bit more interesting to kind of watch. It won't be
100%.
boring to watch Houston, in my opinion, next season. They have got rid of John Wall though. They have bought out his contract, which is good for them because that means they don't have to be carrying like that 40 million just for someone who's
Yeah,
not going to play. John Wall hasn't played since 2020, if I recall, against the Los Angeles Clippers, and reports are saying that he's going to be joining the Los Angeles Clippers once obviously all the buyouts are cleared
yeah.
and he can finally sign for a new team. The Clippers are going to be getting Kawhi back this year, you would hope. Paul George, and then potentially if John Wall comes back, you weren't saying that it was going to be that much of an impact.
Not like I don't think he will like elevate them as much as everyone thinks. Not to disrespect him, like he's still like if we look back in the past, he was an amazing player. But I mean, over 2 years not playing in the league, we don't know if he's been training or not. Like no one really has an idea. Like for all we know, he could have just been sat enjoying life for the last 2 years, and then to just come back to like high class level NBA, it's not easy. Especially if you're gonna be in a team that's trying to compete. Kawhi Leonard, he's not. You know, like here to just make it to the second or third round of the playoffs. He wants to win. Paul George, we know that when it comes down to it, these two guys can, produce something. And obviously, LA Clippers fans, they want to see that. And like the name, like John Wall signing for them, it's not bad. Like, it's not a poor, like, signing from them. I just think, like, people are making it like so much more bigger than it actually is. Like it's gonna be like the difference between them winning a title or not winning a title. Like I think he's gonna be good, but truthfully, I won't not be surprised if he's coming off the bench. Like
All right, fair. I personally think with all three of them players that we mentioned, Wall, George, and Leonard, you could potentially be looking at the best defensive team next season. I think potentially in their position, Wall at the point guard. If you could say Paul George is a shooting guard, and then Kawhi at the small forward. I'd say they're top 5 defensive players in that position, in my opinion. I feel like you could be looking at a team that could potentially make a deep run because of that defense. We've seen plenty of times in the past, you big teams that rely on scoring a lot of points don't really do as well in the playoffs because it's all that defense in
mm,
the end. And I feel like if John Wall can reach the heights of his Washington days, great for LA. If he can only hit half of that, in my opinion, it's still a very good pickup for LA, and I feel like he will help them um, pass the first round this year, in my opinion.
to be fair, like if he does like you said, even reach half of what he was back in Washington, that like you were right, that is still a good pickup. I'm excited to see what he's going to bring really because I want to be wrong. I want to see like the John Wall of the old, like or like somewhat like glimpses of that because like he was an amazing player and you know I want to see some more competition now. Like like we've not really seen the Clippers properly since Kawhi signed because he's been getting injured and stuff, and I want to see them try and push like as hard as they can. I want to see maybe Kawhi have a good playoff run again, like we saw in 2019. Like,
Yeah, definitely. They have been a bit of a disappointing team ever since they all came together
yeah,
for injuries or through just lack of living up to the hype.
mm,
But they haven't been as bad as Brooklyn, and this is where we'll start talking about everything that's happened in free agency
yeah,
last night. I mean, kind of the Brooklyn saga started before free agency, before last night, when
mm.
they were struggling to get a deal done with Kyrie, and people were thinking that he was just going to decline his player option, become a free agent, and then sign for a 6 mil 1 year contract with LA, and then just play for nothing and get the chip, and play with LeBron again. Kyrie did end up buying into that player option, so he will be a Brooklyn Net this year unless they trade him. And then last night, Kevin Durant shocked the NBA by handing in a trade request. I mean, I don't think anyone was expecting that.
Nah, not even because especially after we saw the player option by Kyrie, like I just thought, okay, these two are gonna run it back this year, and I feel like it's gonna be dangerous. And then I jumped on Instagram and I'm like, okay, it's not dangerous anymore. It's dangerous for the board of Brooklyn Nets because, I mean, they're gonna be on a rebuild like crazy, and I mean, I don't, I just I'm I'm confused because like we saw like Ben Simmons get acquired and we're thinking okay they're building like a more like rounded team for next year. They got rid of Harden because he didn't really want to play anymore. Kyrie's now playing and he wants to play like more. KD's KD. Like you're thinking okay now Brooklyn Nets are like okay like this is the super team everyone was like watching, and now you just confused like okay what are they like you know my bad. And I just, I mean, it's interesting as well because like I'm actually glad because to be honest, like I think everyone wanted to see the downfall of this Nets team because no one just
Yeah.
liked the fact that they just built this complete super team and didn't win anything. It's always going to be one of those what if they stayed together type teams or what if Kyrie played all of last year and like things like that. But I mean, where he could go is mental. But I'm thinking more like this is like, and I know this sounds like kind of not off topic completely, but I think if you're the Rockets right now, you must be hyped because all of these picks that you're gonna get are gonna be amazing. Now you're getting lottery picks, everything. The Rockets rebuild is gonna be like unbelievable because like everything they got for Harden, everyone was like, yeah, this is trash. What a dead like like trade. You guys have got nothing, and then we've been like slating the Rockets for the last year and a half, and now in the next 3 years, when the Rockets win the chip because they got Bronny and LeBron in the draft, like it's gonna be crazy. Like for
I mean, I
them.
can't lie. I thought you were saying like he should go to Houston there for a second.
Oh
Like
no.
you said, the Houston Rockets. I was like, they've got a lot of picks. They can give them to Brooklyn and take Kevin Durant. Because I saw something on the timeline being like as a joke, obviously, but being like Oklahoma City have a lot of draft picks that they can
They
flip
could just
to
give them
get a
away.
star. Yeah,
I mean,
get
imagine
KD
like
back in OKC.
imagine they get KD. Okay, they give all their trade picks to Brooklyn, and they get KD, and then like LeBron's like, okay, now's my time. I can get rid of Russ. He sends Russ to OKC.
Oh man, get the
OKC
band
win
back
the
together.
chip.
No, because I was you kind of hinted at this, but I was thinking this is, in my opinion, the biggest missed opportunity and the worst handling of a dynasty I think I've ever seen in the NBA.
Yeah,
I
most definitely.
I personally feel like once they traded for James Harden, like you were booking in a three-peat. You were kind of just like canceling every other team might as well have just cancelled the rest of that season and then the following two seasons because they just weren't on paper. They weren't going to win anything. Like this was, in my opinion, the strongest team since early 2000s Shaq and Kobe Lakers.
Yeah,
Even
like
more
on
stronger,
paper,
even more stronger than the Warriors team, in my opinion.
hundred
Obviously,
percent.
maybe not the one that had Kevin Durant in it because that was
Yeah,
just OP, but the like
like the
the ones
first team
that
to win the chip.
like the first team to win the chip, the one that blew the 3-1 lead against
Yeah,
the Lakers. Like this was, in my opinion, the next dynasty, the next team to win three chips in a row. Because when you sign them three players, obviously they are potentially past their peak, but I'd go as far as to say Kyrie and KD, definitely not KD, definitely KD aren't past their peak in my opinion. KD can still produce.
yeah,
They are in their peak, top 10 in their position in the league.
yeah,
Um, obviously, and then obviously when they signed them, yes, James Harden hadn't had that good of a season. Kyrie came off of a poor year in Boston. That's still at that point at least top 15 players in the three of the top 15 players in the NBA on the same team.
yeah. I mean,
You don't need to surround them with anyone. That should be enough.
really,
um,
really, that's true. And
and to get one playoff series win out of this, to
it's
not even
crazy.
get through to a conference final, in the 2 years that this team has been together
It's
is,
it's 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 crazy.
and it must suck to be a Brooklyn fan.
Yeah,
Like
because they must have had.
New York basketball as a state is just a bit dead. We'll talk about the Knicks later in what they've done
Nah,
in
we don't
free
gotta
agency.
talk
I don't
about the
think
Knicks, bro. It's calm, man. We
like
don't gotta-
genuinely just New York as a state for basketball is just an endless pit of disappointment. Is what it is. Like the Knicks are in the mud, in my opinion. The Nets are even further in the mud. Ben Simmons is their star player for next season. Ben Simmons is going to be their star player for next season, and he hasn't played in 2.5, 3 years, and yeah, it's all gone wrong. But I feel like the only positive that can be taken from Brooklyn in this situation is the fact that Kyrie signed that player option, and KD has about 3 more years on his deal. So to flip their contracts into something for another team, to give their contracts to another team, they're going to be getting either a star or a lot of solid role players on decent money in return. So I feel like,
100%.
yes, they are getting rid of potentially top five players in their position in KD and Kyrie this off season, but they are going to be in a pretty quick rebuild, in my opinion, for it. Because
Oh yeah.
they've still got Ben Simmons. I mean, he might come back and do bits. And yeah, if they end up getting decent players in return for them, then yeah, I feel it won't be as bad. Which then takes me on to, where do you think Kevin Durant will go?
Damn. Okay. I've been thinking about this really since I saw that like he put the trade in. So this is what I think KD's gonna do. And only because we've seen it happen before. The Warriors win a chip and then they get KD and they win more chips. I don't know. And now this is where it gets crazy. Now this probably won't happen, but if it does happen, I've called one big trade before. I'm about to call the second biggest trade possibly in the history of the NBA. Klay Thompson goes to Brooklyn Nets.
Just Clay
I'm
for
telling
KD.
you, straight swap.
No,
The
man.
Splash Bros are getting extinct.
Just Clay for KD.
Yes,
You're really
and
about
maybe
to.
some picks and like
I
James
know,
Wiseman and all
I
that
know.
stuff.
Brooklyn are in the mud, but if
James Wiseman maybe as well, all of that stuff. But the big one is I think Clay goes to Brooklyn. Why? Because the truth is he's not the Clay of old. He's still good in moments, but he's really not the Clay that we know
exactly, man, you're
and
saying he's not
love.
the Clay of old, and you're saying he's level. You
But
can
he's
trade him
still
for
he's
Kevin
still
Durant.
he's still world class. Like he's still like some of the best in the league. But obviously he's not on the same as level as KD. But if they like if they give Clay, they give maybe some picks, they give maybe James Wiseman,
You
and
got I think put Wiggins in there too potentially
okay, if you can put in Wiggins as well, and
if
then
that was to happen. I don't think he's gonna go to Golden State though. I
in
mean,
return, KD
he's come out.
comes.
He seems to have come out, and reports are saying that it's Miami and Phoenix that are on the top of his list, but over half of the league has called to inquire about him. I can tell you
Oh
one
yeah,
place he ain't. I can tell you one place he ain't going though, which is the Orlando Magic. Despite Paolo Banchero's greatest like tampering issues. I mean, was it Dame that put on his
yeah.
Instagram
Dame
story
Dame put the Portland
of him
picture.
with they brought in all of like Jeremy Grant, Anthony Simons has tied down a new deal. Little do they know they're just gonna ship him off.
Getting sent straight to Brooklyn.
Yeah, I think it like the Suns and the Heat are probably the easiest ones to deal with, in my opinion. But for I don't think it'd make sense for the Suns to do it because I do feel like they're gonna have to give up like
Like D Book or CP3 or something.
because I think obviously Aiton does want to leave and Aiton does want a max contract, so
Mm.
you can like flip that almost onto KD's contract. Obviously, it won't be as much, but it means you don't have to add as much in the rest of the package. But I just feel like the good thing about Phoenix, in my opinion, is just the amount of good depth that they have, kind of coming off the bench. I like you, Cam Johnson's, Dario Saric, um, Jay Crowder. Jay Crowder's like very valuable to that team, in my opinion. I just feel like it's gonna be worth. It's gonna cost a lot more than it's worth for Phoenix to do it. But imagine CP3, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant on the same team. That's dangerous.
That would be crazy.
I do feel like Miami is might be where he goes, though, in my opinion. If if they can somehow agree to send, I'm trying to think now. Bam, Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, maybe a few picks is what I packaged to put Kevin Durant on that team.
Hmm. I just don't see him going to Miami, even though I know we always hate on them for some reason. Even though they're not bad, I really don't see it. Like, but if he does go, it'll give me like LeBron going to Miami type vibes, like the way he just went and then they just won like two chips. Like, if he goes there, they're winning their chip, like hands down. Like, I think there's no like Jimmy and KD is really, I think they're winning the chip.
Yeah,
Like,
I'd take him on Chicago. I think we could. There's potential that we could, as a Bulls fan, manage to get him. But obviously, it means giving up quite a few of what we're trying to build. Um, but I'd personally think Vucevic, DeMar. I'd put DeMar DeRozan in that. If you've got DeMar, I don't. If you're getting Kevin Durant, I feel like
you
you
don't.
can't afford
It's
to
like you
get
pick
rid of DeMar
like, would
DeRozan.
you rather have KD or Demar? You'd rather have KD all day
I'd
long.
already, yeah. No, I mean I love DeMar, but I feel like you could put DeMar, Vooch, and then like Kobe White in that. Maybe put Patrick Williams in there too, just as a bit of a sweetener for the deal. But I don't want us to get rid of Pat. Um, yeah, it's crazy though. This is gonna be like, I think a lot of people were saying before the off season that this is gonna be a bit of a boring off season. Your only real major free agent targets are Zach LaVine and Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal was adamant that he was going to be staying at Washington. Zach LaVine is pretty much like 80% confirmed to be staying in Chicago. You were thinking this is going to be a bit of a boring off season, and then Kevin Durant's come and drop this bombshell.
Yeah, I think he was like, you know what? Let me just switch up this whole thing because I
Let
don't
me
like the way they're
put a
talking.
bit of fuel on the fire for this one. Yeah. So yeah, I feel it's going to be interesting to see where he goes, and obviously we will definitely talk about it once the trade actually happens. We were talking about him going to Miami.
Mm.
That might not actually end up happening because reports are saying that Miami have contacted Utah about a trade for Donovan Mitchell yesterday on the first day of free agency. Now, obviously,
Mm.
the Utah Jazz are probably looking to split up Mitchell and Gobert this year. Um, the Bulls were linked with Gobert. I don't think Gobert's going to be leaving that much, though. Although I have seen things that have said that if Mitchell goes, they might be more likely to let Gobert go for a little bit less. So I think we
Yeah,
could potentially be in the market if Mitchell leaves. I'm not really sure if we've done a trade proposal from Miami for Donovan Mitchell because obviously he's been linked with Miami ever since Utah got knocked out of the playoffs
yeah.
last season. But if you were Miami and contracts are confusing, so say contracts ain't a thing, what are you doing if you're Miami to try and get Donovan Mitchell without exploding, without hitting the self destruct button on everything that you have at the moment?
I think you give away not too much, but not enough. Like I think maybe Duncan Robinson and Kyle Lowry, send them, and then unless is Kyle Lowry a free agent right now? I don't know.
No, I don't think he is.
He's
I
not.
personally think Tyler Hero's the center package for any trade that
I
goes through
think
Miami.
I just think they can't drop that guy. I don't
No,
know, man.
I feel the same. I just feel like they can survive without him, but he is that deal sweetener. Like the Bulls with Patrick Williams, like I was
Yeah,
saying.
I hear you.
A young player that's got great potential in what he can do. He's come off a great season. Um, all eyes will be on him this year to see if he can actually follow it up. Obviously, he had a great year in the bubble and then followed it up with a stinker He's
Mm.
had another great year now. See if he can actually kind of get that, carry that momentum, keep that consistency. So it'd be
Yeah,
interesting to see how Tyler Hero performs. But I feel like because of how young he is, and because he's been coming off the bench a lot this year,
yeah.
um, a lot of teams that are going to be wanting to trade for are going to be engaged in trade talks with the Heat are going to be saying we can start Tyler Hero.
Mm.
So yeah, it'd be interesting. I think if you're Miami, I again Bam might be in that equation in my opinion. I feel like if you don't want to get rid of Tyler Hero, Bam is in that equation. But I feel like because you're getting Donovan Mitchell, what's the point in having two quality shooting guards on your team? Especially given that
That's
obviously
true.
Jimmy Butler can play there, Duncan Robinson's
Yeah.
a shooting guard. So I feel like giving up Tyler Hero makes it that little
I think
less.
in that situation you have to give up Bam over no, so you have to give up Tyler Hero over Bam because
Yeah,
then you have the big man issue. Like, okay, then you have to solve that issue. Like the if you give up Tyler Hero, they get Donovan Mitchell, so that's fixed. But if they give up Bam, they've got too many shooters and they're not
not
a
enough rim
serious big
protection.
man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I get that. Yeah. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how Donovan Mitchell and the Utah Jazz itself looks like going into the new season.
Mm.
Um, I think that's enough for trades though, and we'll just talk about actual signings that happened yesterday. I think we got to start with the big one, quite literally. Nikola Jokic becoming the most paid player in NBA history.
Crazy.
Now, if you'd have told me when Nikola Jokic got drafted during a Taco Bell commercial, number 41, not that long ago, that he would become the most paid player, paid more than LeBron, more than Giannis, more than Steph Curry,
Mm.
5 year deal, $264 million being paid over those 5 years. He does deserve it though. He's the back to back MVP.
Oh yeah, he definitely deserves it. I'm confused, and I know this is gonna like ruffle some feathers, but I just don't understand why he's giving his loyalty to Denver. They're not that good. Like he's so much better than that team, and obviously I know loyalty is live with like and all of that, but like if he's now committed 5 years to a team that I don't see them winning a chip in 5 years. Like I I don't like unless they get KD. Like I
I
just
think
don't see it happening.
it'll all depend on how Jamal Murray gets back. In my opinion, obviously they got to
Yeah,
the Western Conference Final during that bubble year when Jamal Murray was going off night in night out.
yeah, it's
Obviously,
cooking.
hasn't played since. Which
Yeah, mental.
I was saying in the last episode, I just want to see the guy hoop. I missed him,
Yeah.
so it'd be interesting to see how Jamal Murray is like when he gets back. And I feel like he's their second guy. So obviously these last 2 years have
Oh
been
yeah.
kind of. I'm not saying they don't count because obviously they count, but as in it's
Yeah, they
been
can't. Otherwise, the
it's been
MVPs don't count.
yeah obviously it's been 2 years where you were kind of expecting someone else to step up, but no one else did.
Yeah, and
But
I
yeah,
mean, I think.
I get what you
Oh,
mean
God.
though. No one really seems to be linked with Denver in trade talks.
Yeah, and I mean, if like I said, it like that 5 year deal, if they want to challenge for the next 5 years, like they need someone, a serious number two, because like I mean, you can't do it on your own. Really, you can't. Like
I mean,
if you
Dirk,
look at it,
he reminds me of Dirk. Dirk did it on his own.
yeah, but Dirk, come on, man, we can't put anyone on that pedestal, man. We
Oh,
can't do
okay,
that.
all
We
right,
can't do
okay.
that, man. That's Dirk. And
I think when all's said and done for Jokic, he could be on that level though.
depending on how the next five
Dirk
years
didn't win an
run,
MVP.
that's true. But should he have won MVP? That's a different question.
Fair. Okay. I think that's a different question for a whole nother video, man.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, I'm just thinking like I want to see him do well. I mean, he's already got two MVPs. Why not add like Finals MVP and a chip to that list? Like it'll be like the biggest or one of like it'll be like a next to Giannis story in terms of like nothing to everything. Like you know, I would love to see it happen. Like such a slept on guy when he started in the league. I didn't even know who he was when he started in the league, and now he's the two-time MVP, most paid player. like one of the most feared players in the league. I definitely wouldn't want to go up against him if I was in the league. Like, you know, he's he's a dangerous guy, and you could only assume like he's gonna try his hardest. But I mean, if you look at the last, what, two playoffs like that, he was MVP in in that season. Like first round, they went out last season. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
they need a lot more because he's obviously shown he wants to win at Denver. Like so now they are whether they will do it in this off season because they've obviously just filled up a lot of cap space by paying him, the most ever. Like they do need to give him help and a lot, or not a lot, but more than enough because, like I said, you can't really do it on your own.
yeah, definitely. And like I said, with 264 million over 5 years, the most paid player in the NBA. Props to Jokic for breaking that record. I don't know who held it last. My guess is would be LeBron though.
Was it? Yeah, I'm sure it was LeBron to Miami, the
It might have been.
175 million over 5 years or something like that. I can't remember.
Like, that's definitely been broken in the past. 175 mils over
Yeah,
5 years, practically
it,
nothing.
it probably was Giannis, to be fair, because he got
Yeah,
the
that maybe.
Supermax last.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, that so obviously 264 million. That's a lot of money. That's still only about 13 million more than Bradley Beal has signed the extension for another 5 years at Washington, and pretty much just said, "I ain't really caring about winning chips. I just
I'm
want the
in my
bag."
bag. Like, I,
And I guess respect to him, but look, I mean, Washington aren't contenders.
of course. I mean, I think he'll always just be one of those guys. Yeah, he was really good, but I think now he doesn't care as much about winning as much as just he's probably content with life in Washington. He's probably happy living there. His family is probably happy.
Yeah.
They're gonna pay him a lot. It's like, he's still gonna get to play basketball. He's still gonna get to play, against LeBron and all these big guys. Like, so why not? Just
And to be fair, I guess next year is probably a decent chance for them to see how they do with Porzingis at that center position. Obviously, when Porzingis signed, Beal was injured for pretty much the most of the time after. So it'll be interesting to see
hundred
how
percent.
that duo does.
I mean, they could do something. You never know. They could make like the play-ins or something. Like,
Yeah, it doesn't strike me as anything that's playoff worthy though.
yeah, but like I could see maybe like ninth or 10th maybe happening. Like depending on how well them two play together. Like we know Bradley Beal can be like really good on his day. Like, I mean, it'll be good to see though. I mean, it's kind of just giving me the same like feeling of when Russ went and we were like, oh, okay, and then really nothing really happened. Like,
Yeah, I know I completely agree with that. So yeah, Beal, get your bag, man. I don't hold that anything against you for that, man. Props to you.
mm,
Cat, Carl Anthony Towns has got his bag. 224 mil extension over 4 years. For the Minnesota Timberwolves. Minnesota ended up with a decent season last year, obviously.
mm-hmm,
Getting that number 7 seed. Not many people predicted them to do that
yeah,
well. Anthony Edwards is only growing. Like said, Cat
100%,
isn't young, so obviously that team can only improve, really, can't it?
hundred
So
percent, hundred
Cat getting
percent.
that bag, committing himself over the next 4 years. It's going to be a slow build up, but I feel like they can definitely still challenge. They can definitely challenge in the playoffs next season too.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, we saw them only slip by small margins in the last uh, time they were in the playoffs. I mean, you know, Kat said they were in Minnesota and everything, and now he's in Minnesota for the next 4 years. So, I mean, that's good though because I like to see, like I talk like we just mentioned Jokic with like commitment to teams. Like we've seen Kat at the Timberwolves, and I think he's one of them. I think he'll just stay there. I think that would be his team, and I'm glad because I want to see them do something. I want to see them like, progress. I want to maybe see them semis or maybe even finals. Like
Yeah, uh,
Timberwolves, I like them. They're
yeah.
they're
That's what I was gonna say. That I like
mm,
the Timberwolves as a franchise. I feel they've been kind of underrated.
100%. And I mean they have a good team like around them, like a really good strong core. And
Yeah,
with Kat there, like you can't really go wrong. And now the commitment's there. maybe that might draw in like a few other like not smaller players, but like just kind of in the middle of that between like big and small players, like to maybe build the Timberwolves even more, you'd say,
Yeah,
and then help them because you know like a team like that, like you said, it's a good franchise to be in, and as a player, you want to be in a good franchise. So you never know, it might entice some players and help them, like maybe progress in the playoffs and everything.
yeah, definitely. And then the final actual max extension, Devin Booker, obviously, $214 million over 4 years, and yeah, I feel that's definitely deserved. What I don't think's deserved for him is the 2K23 cover for next year. I feel like Steph Curry probably should have got it. Um,
God damn, yeah. I would have
but
liked to see like I either like to see just someone like big. I'd not say that D Book isn't big, like, but either someone like that or like just a young guy. I don't know. Like I remember when there was Zion, but um, I mean, it's D Book. He was first team NBA. We gotta let this one slide.
yeah, do we reckon that this max has obviously the max was announced before KD handed in the
Mhm.
request? We have talked a bit about KD. We've said they shouldn't give up Booker, but do you think this max will make giving up Booker potentially something that might happen?
I don't know, man. You know what it is? I don't even want to think about it because I cannot see D Book leaving the
Yeah,
Suns, and if he does, I'm not even a big Suns guy. I like the Suns, but like I would feel some type of way about him moving or him getting traded. I'd be like, damn, they really did that. Like I think a lot of Suns fans would just really not be happy with the
yeah,
board and everything if that happened. Like it'd be like if like the Warriors traded Curry for KD kind of thing. Like no one would be happy no matter what
yeah,
you're getting. Like
yeah. Charles Barkley put his head through his TNT desk. Um, when that gets announced, yeah, I feel like yeah, he has shown unbelievable amounts of loyalty. He stuck with them through the tanking days. He's now
100%, they're
been
reaping.
rewarded with
Yeah,
a finals appearance, obviously. Bit of a disappointing season last year. We'll talk about that next week, hopefully.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, respect to Booker for getting that max extension.
100.
Um, a couple of rookie max extensions, which you don't really see that often because rookies are never usually stars after their main contract runs out 4 years after. But Ja Morant and Zion Williamson have both. Well, Ja has actually signed it. Zion is reportedly going to sign one with their current teams, Memphis and New Orleans, respectively. 198 mil over 4 seasons with an extra player option, which could take it up to about 213, 14 million
That's
over five
crazy.
years. And as such a young player, that is a lot of belief in a franchise of such a young player, especially New Orleans. Obviously, Zion has only really had one fullish season in the NBA.
Yeah.
Did kill it, obviously, but you are putting a lot of hope into someone who has shown that he has been a bit of a liability for you potentially in the past.
100%. But I think looking at them now, looking at him from what we know, I genuinely think 5 years or less, he's an MVP. Really, I've always praised
Just
Zion.
drop that. Just
I've
drop
wanted
that.
to see him play for so long. Every playoff game, I was like, okay, he's coming now. He's coming, and I've been a big fan of that guy. He's just such a dominant force, like at such a young age. Like, and we only saw him for 1 year, but I really think, like next year, like we said, like they're looking dangerous,
Yeah,
and
New
I think
Orleans. New Orleans having that run last year might have persuaded him a little bit more.
100%. I mean, see him and CJ, I think are going to be dangerous. I'm getting like Shaq and Kobe vibes. Obviously, they're not gonna be, but it's just the big guy and then the good shooter. I'm just seeing some amazing things. I really think New Orleans are going to be a
They are,
like
in my opinion,
underdog. Like
yeah.
that's gonna do something.
If they keep it as it is at the moment, they keep Ingram, they keep McCollum, they tie Zion down. They've got Jonas Valanciunas at center, Herb Jones, Jose Alvarado came through last year.
Yeah,
Like undrafted and second round picks came through, showed themselves out in the playoffs, which is that's where your eyes are on because New Orleans they don't get televised during the regular season, unless Zion's playing. That's for sure. So
Hmm.
the best way to get some eyes on you is through doing stuff in the playoffs, and they did come
100%.
through. They've got such an underrated team next year, and I feel like, in my opinion, they could be 1 point guard away from potentially NBA Finals. I think they've got. I think does Eric Bledsoe still play for them? I don't know.
I have
I'm
no
obviously
clue.
making some stuff up there, but yeah, I feel like they just do have a really underrated team, and I feel like they are going to be the team to watch next year.
Yeah, I feel that. But I really am. I'm excited for New Orleans, like to see them. Hopefully, we get to see them. But
Yeah,
I mean, it's just Zion. I just want to see Zion.
yeah,
Like that's it. I
definitely.
don't even care about anyone else. Just give me Zion versus the Warriors. That's it. That's
1-on-5.
1-5.
Yeah, and then obviously big ups to Ja, much deserved
100%. I
to
mean, yeah, definitely.
get
Again,
that.
like so deserved. Like, and I mean, his like commitment to the Grizzlies because the Grizzlies are a growing, fast growing team, and I think they're gonna be like unreal. Like, and we've seen them without him, with him. It's just a strong team in general, and he himself is just a great player. And I think, I mean, we saw them. They gave Golden State a run for their money. They weren't bad. Took them to 6. Like that's crazy.
Definitely.
And who knows what they can do next year. I can see some big things happening for them, but like we're saying now, there's a lot more competition. It's like it's going to be tough, but like a lot of eyes will be on them. Like the number 2 seed from last year. Like the eyes will be there.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we'll move on to a few dumb free agency signings, in my opinion, up next, and we'll start with Philadelphia. And as much as PJ Tucker, I feel, is one of the most important players in NBA in the NBA at the moment. He epitomizes 3 and D at the forward position, which you don't get much of. You don't really get a guy who can spread the floor and still play defense on
Hmm.
1 through 5. Obviously, whenever I think of PJ Tucker, I'll always think of that graphic during the bubble where they showed all of these Western Conference centers and how tall they were, and then they just had PJ Tucker playing small ball Houston at 6'6" at the center. Philadelphia, yes, he's important, but PJ Tucker is 37. They signed him to a 3-year deal where they're going to be paying him 11 million each year.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It takes up a bit of cap space, and for a guy who, when the deal is going to run out, is going to be 40, I feel like he really only has maybe
1.5 years or
possibly 2 years
something. Yeah.
at a proper level. So yeah, Philadelphia. Yes, he's gonna be a good help, and if they win the chip next year, who knows? They're not going to be complaining. But when James Harden declined his massive player option to sign for a lot less for Philadelphia this
Yeah.
offseason, um, you weren't thinking they were going to be just chucking all of that money at a 37-year-old
Hmm.
person who's going to be a role player for them, pretty much. But obviously, an
Definitely.
important one.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, I honestly, I don't know what Philadelphia like. I think they do actually need Adam Sandler back. Like that. That just must. No, but really, I mean, obviously, we thought that when the Harden trade happened, okay, something big's gonna happen for them.
Yeah.
Kind of flopped, and then now they just, I don't know what they're doing. I don't know how they're moving, but I
Well,
still,
it looks like Embiid is holding it down though. He hasn't been subject of many trade rumors recently, which is good for Philadelphia.
I mean, for now,
Yeah,
I,
definitely.
I think because Harden's like saying that he's staying, I think that's giving him a thing. Okay, if you're staying, I'll stay, kind of thing.
Yeah,
I mean, unless it's like another Kyrie KD, like who knows? But
yeah. Well, I mean, you were talking about Adam Sandler there. I didn't actually write this down in the notes before we start, but another dumb thing that happened in free agency was the Utah Jazz releasing Juancho Hernan Gomez after seeing everything that he could do as
after
both
all the
Cruz.
hard work that he's put in to be in this league,
Hey, Boston should pick him up, in my opinion.
I'm just saying, Boston, he give him the 22 jersey, let him play. Watch how you win the chip. It's not gonna be JT anymore. It's all
No,
about Bo Cruz.
Bo Cruz. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, we'll obviously move on from that pretty quickly, but yeah, don't release Bo Cruz, Utah.
Please.
You're
No, no,
down
let
bad.
him go to
Really bad.
Boston. That's what needs to happen.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we also are now we also gonna move on to the final stupid free agency signing, in my opinion, which is Jalen Brunson. Obviously, with Christian Wood signing for the Dallas Mavericks
Yeah.
by trade um, before the end of the season, you were thinking that they weren't going to have enough cap space to tie Jalen Brunson down to what he wanted. Now, obviously, he's not a bad player,
Yeah.
and him going to New York for 100 million over 4 years, good for him, man. Get your bag. You deserve
Mm.
it. You had a good postseason run. So yeah, he deserves the bag in my opinion, but I feel like he isn't going to change anything for New York, and they've just spent 100 mil on him, committed
Yeah.
him over the next 4 years.
I think I don't think he'll be bad, to be fair. Like I
I want him to prove me wrong, though. Is what I'm saying.
yeah. No, I mean New York need all the help,
Yeah,
like straight up. And obviously you know how much I want to see them do well. So I think it 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 can't be worse. It can only be
yeah.
better. Like
And they
it'll
have made a
either
few.
be this.
They have made a few underrated pickups, in my opinion. They managed to keep Mitchell Robinson. They signed Isaiah Hartenstein, so they're sorted in the center position. They've obviously
Yeah.
still got Julius Randle. RJ Barrett's growing and growing, and maybe Brunson is young. Um, So yeah, maybe, and then Derrick Rose at point.
No, I mean
You know what?
that's
I've changed my mind. That chip winning team. That's the starting five that's going to win the chip.
they need to win the. Everyone in the league just needs to lay down for 1 year so Derrick Rose can win the chip, man. New York can win the chip finally, and life will be good. You know, we can have a celebration on the podcast. Everything will be amazing.
Yeah.
But I need to speak to some people. I need to make this happen.
Well, we will most definitely see whether this Jalen Brunson trade is good. I just feel like at the trade free agency signing is good. I just feel like at the moment it can't be, in my opinion.
Fair enough.
And then a few final ones before we end. Andre Drummond has signed for Chicago. Do you think this is a dub trade or an L trade?
Do you think it's a dub or a L? That's the real
I
question.
I don't, I think we could have got better players, but then I realized that Andre Drummond's only 28, which
Yeah, he's not old.
doesn't seem right. But I feel off the bench, yes, that's a good trade. It gives us the opportunity to a good free agency signing. It gives us the opportunity to play Vuce at 4, the power forward, if we wanted to. Um, but it also apparently he did he wasn't that good interior paint defense, which is what we kind of need to pattern up on. But he's a good rebounder. I feel like that's what we need. And to get him for what, 6 mil
Yeah,
over 2 years, that's a good trade in my opinion.
yeah, I'll agree with that. I don't think he's a poor player.
Yeah,
I think he's actually all right. Like, I think yeah, coming off the bench, I think it's a decent pickup. Not gonna lie.
yeah. JaVale McGee signed a 3 year, 30 million contract with Dallas, who obviously needed like interior defense. They needed a good center. I've said that I wanted JaVale at the Bulls, so I'm a bit disappointed that we couldn't pick him up. I think it's a dub trade for Dallas. They've got the
100%.
hole that they need, and it's a good vet. You know, championship experience, which no one on the Mavericks
Yeah,
has.
literally. I think that's a big dub for them. I think like you cannot even like argue with that. I think like we've been saying for so long, get Lucas some more help, and I think they've just gone and done that.
Yeah,
So you gotta say well done to them. Like they actually like
I'm looking forward to seeing how
100%,
how Dallas do. Yeah.
100%.
Um, and Gary Payton joining the Blazers.
I really was not expecting that. I'll be honest. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
I
coming
mean,
straight off the
you
championship.
told me you were saying they do have a lot of free agents. So it'd be interesting to see who they tie down. They let Toscano Anderson join LA,
Yeah,
who was a decent bench player for them. But the fact is, yes, they've lost Toscano Anderson. Yes, they've lost Gary Payton, but their bench is still stacked regardless.
oh yeah, hundred
Poole,
percent.
with Poole, with Kuminga, Moses Moody might get some game time now that Payton's gone. I talked about
James
Moses Moody
Wiseman
last
will
time.
hit that bench at some
James
point.
Wiseman, yeah.
I mean,
So yeah, I
I
mean,
still was
their
kind of
team's
shocked
still
because
stacked.
like we see a lot of potential in that guy, and I don't know, I just assumed he was going to stick with the Warriors. But
Yeah,
either way,
I feel like it's what they need to do to make sure that they have enough money to tie Poole and Wiggins down next season when their
yeah,
contracts are up.
yeah,
So I feel like
fair enough.
it might not be good right now, but next season when they're able to
Yeah,
keep the two players that are going to lead them into the future, in my opinion,
100%.
when Steph and Clay and Draymond kind of get a little
Yeah,
bit past it, yeah, I feel like it's worth it in that regard.
100%. But also, I think like in terms of like Gary Payton and his career, I think he's actually taken a bit of a good step forward because like he's like actually trying to make his own way. Like obviously he's going to Portland, who are kind of trying to rebuild a big team so they can go and compete again. And I'm guessing he wants to be involved. Obviously, he'll get a lot more minutes under Portland. He's not going to be coming off the
It'll be
bench all the time.
interesting because obviously if Dame does come back, Anthony Simons is probably going to be his number two. So Payton
Yeah,
might still come off the bench, but obviously if Dame misses a few games here and there due to load management, or obviously if he isn't ready for the start of the season come October,
yeah,
Payton's going to be that guy at two, and then maybe he can operate as a three if Dame gets back.
100%. I mean, I'm actually excited to see what's going to happen with him and Portland.
Look,
I think it'll be like good things
the
for him.
trade deadline and free agency start is always just so interesting because you can see how new teams are going to look to
Mm,
improve next season. You just get a lot of
100%.
new dynamics. You
Yeah.
know, Trey and DeJounte, Christian Wood and Luca.
Mm,
We've seen new people just get meshed together, and it'll be interesting to see how it moves around next year. Um,
100%.
yeah, definitely. So it'll obviously be interesting to see how that goes. But that is only the start. Obviously, there are still more free agents out there that still need to sign new contracts. Zach LaVine mainly. Let's hope
Hmm.
that he stays with the Bulls. Obviously, Kevin Durant is most likely going to leave Brooklyn. Whether he leaves, will Kyrie join him? Who knows? So there is still a lot of things to uncover before before summer league, pretty much in the end.
Mm,
So yeah, it will be interesting to see how that goes down. But I think we've been recording for a while about this now, so I feel like this is a good way to close it. Um,
100%.
next week we should be doing the grading video, unless Kevin Durant moves to Orlando, and then we just need to scrap it and make
Just,
a
yeah,
throw that out there. Yeah.
get Paolo on the podcast. Like,
No, man, I don't like him already. I don't like him already.
nah, I don't like that other guy. I forgot his name though. The one that looks like you sent me the post, man. I forgot. But the guy who said, "Oh, he's going to be the best player in the league
What,
when he
Chet
starts the league."
Holmgren?
Yeah, bro,
Looks
you're
like
not the best player in the
Tyler
league.
Hero and the cook from Ratatouille had a
Yeah,
baby.
who's the best player in the league? Me in 2 months. Shut your mouth, man. No, you're not.
Yeah, well, yeah, we could also obviously. I don't know much about all of the rookies, but I feel like
Mm,
it's always interesting to see how the rookies perform as well. So
yeah.
yeah, it definitely went until summer league for that though. So
Mm,
yeah, I feel like I think that's a good way to close it. So yeah, if you guys like the video, make sure you like and subscribing onto the YouTube. Make sure you're commenting down below any suggestions for us to like video suggestions for us to record over the off season. But we got 3 months, almost 4 months until the new season starts. Pretty much until the end of October. We got a lot of time to fill. So make sure you leave
mm.
in any suggestions down below in the comments. Make sure you're showing out no matter what you're listening on. It's been good having you back today, Sully.
It's been good to be back,
Yeah,
man.
it's been a bit dead missing you last week. So yeah, it's good to have you back. And yeah, me and Sully will see you guys next week, where we will hopefully be grading each team's season from worst to best. See you.